another match point.
Incredible third set here.
They changed their strategy a little bit and they fought their way back in.
There it is, game, set, and match.
Go.
Hello and welcome to the 2024-25 APTA Tour. We're live from the Glenview Club in Gulf, Illinois, bringing you the Chicago Charities Grand Prix with live streaming brought to you by the APTA membership and our tour presenting sponsors, Volley and Corian. Tournament support has been provided by the following local sponsors: Wintrust, Illinois Bone and Joint, Viking, and CPTC. I'm Patty Hogan, along with the one and only Brian Fegg, bringing you women's round of 16 action between Vera Basanova and Anya Bukian against Victoria Cran and Lindsay Herschel. Welcome to the booth, Brian.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Patty. And we have a great match here today. So if we're, looking at all the players out here in the black visor and purple shirt, we have Vera Basanova from New Jersey. And
on the near side?
On the far side. Oh, sorry, apologies. On the far side. And then on that's in the deuce side. On the ad side, in the blue cap, we have Victoria Cran. And then on the near side of the court, in the all black, we have Anna Buchanan. And then in Bukian, thank you, Patty. And then in the deuce, in the white hat, we have Lindsay Herschel. So really excited for this one, Patty. And this is between the 8 and 12 seeds, so two evenly, matched teams seed-wise.
Right, who's the umpire for this match?
Yep, and in the chair ump, we have Rob Laboon. So thanks, Rob, for being up there and helping us out here today.
Okay, and what's the scoring format for today's match, Brian?
Yep, so we're still in the main draw. So the match format, we have regular scoring, best of 2 out of 3 sets. And then, third set, again, full set there with a third set breaker at the end.
And Brian, we'll get around to you in a little while, but first, let's just welcome our first special guest of the day, none other than the tournament director, Jason Love. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Jason, thank you. We cannot thank you enough. This is a monumental undertaking, and you've been involved with this tournament since 2008. I mean, what a team that you joined, the leadership. Alan Grant, John Noble, Shannon Vincent. I mean, amazing lineage right there. Learn how to run a tournament. And now you've taken over. This is the second year for you running the show, Jason?
Yes, that's correct. And again, like you said, big kudos to the group, that showed us the way, if you will. And we were lucky here in Chicago to have such a great support system of volunteers and well as people that are involved in the event. It really makes it easy. I feel bad being the one in here taking all the press.
Well, we know it falls on the leader. So anyway, here we go. We're underway. Brian, who's serving?
Yep, in the blue cap, we have Victoria Cran starting out serving.
Great return.
Yeah, exceptional return there.
That was from Basanova in the deuce court. That's a good shot in all black with the ponytail, bouncing up and down, the ever-bouncy Anya Bukian. Basanova and Bukian, we know well from Jersey. Anya Bukian is an assistant pro at Canoe Country Club. She teaches tennis, paddle, pickle, anything you want. And Vera is nearby at the Short Hills Club. And like all these women pros out here, so talented. You name a racket sport, they know how to teach it.
What's your favorite to play, Patty?
Besides platform tennis, the greatest sport ever invented?
I was teeing you up for that one there, yeah.
Okay, Jason, it used to be basketball till I got to about first grade, and then reality hit for me. It's the first time I realized I really wasn't going to be a pro basketball player. So racket sports are a great thing, and I spent my lifetime playing tennis, played for Rutgers, got to represent them, and was lucky enough to be introduced to paddle right when I got out of college.
Well, Patty, it's a true honor to actually be on the mic, I think, for the first time together, but, known you a long time and true legend of the game, so truly honored to be here with you.
It's mutual, Jason. And with Brian, I mean, I have a little crush on Brian. I've known him from
Patty.
his junior days, former junior Nash champ with Will Kleeman. Brian's family, they're kind of crazy, your parents, but we love them. Chuck and Janet from New Jersey. And Brian grew up playing junior paddle, going to every single tournament. I remember him when I was taller than Brian. And then he just has loved this game, and he's lucky enough to be participating in the draw tomorrow.
Really appreciate that, Patty. Yeah, this game has given me so much, and I love to give back where I can. So I'm, Jason already kind of said it, but I'm stoked to be in the booth here with you today.
Well, this is really fun, and this is kind of one of these matches when we go on the air. You're thinking, okay, what do we got here? Who are we picking? And so I love putting people on the spot. Jason, no, I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Thank you.
You have Cran and Herschel. They've worked themselves into the top 10 in the country over the past couple seasons, and then you have here Bukian and Basanova, who play a lot with each other, given that they work 5 minutes from each other. A ton of talent on this team. Basanova was injured most of last season. We heard from her in the booth a little bit. So it's kind of an intriguing matchup. And there are weapons, as you can see from Bukian and Basanova. And I think that I saw them practice the other day. They were over at Canoebrook practicing. And that's one of the advantages of the Northeast, where these guys can get a game in between their teaching schedule. I saw them out there. B. Lopez was out there. And I think that Vera and Anya, they are hoping that they have a good result here, because it'd be great for them to pair up. In the women's games, it's hard if one person's from Cincinnati, one's from the Northeast, to practice and really work on your game. So I think this will be a curious match for them, and a match that I think both teams assume they're going to win.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, Patty, as Cran and Herschel go up 1-0, it sounds like you like Basanova and Bukian to win this. Is that true, or am I just reading between the lines there?
It kind of sounded like that. I think that they have a lot of tournament know-how playing against a lot of top women's players, and we'll see if they can take advantage of that. Cran and Herschel, I mean, they're a great team. They've done really well for themselves. Vic Cran was a former player for University of Kentucky. She teaches up at Eastern Yacht Club in Massachusetts. Herschel played college tennis at Stonehill. They got game. They just don't have as much opportunity to play against the other top players. And that's the only reason I would give a slight nod in this match to the Jersey team. And I see the Jersey team a lot, so they probably wouldn't like it if I didn't give them the nod, to be truthful.
Smart,
Yeah,
Patty.
you're hedging your bets. I love it.
I love your comment, Patty, about kind of that upside, your opportunity to win some possible free points. You can see on the picture here, it's a beautiful day. It's still pretty warm. We're in the upper 50s. So, a little extra pace, a little extra spin is going to maybe help them out with that.
And with how good these... sorry, Patty.
Oh, you know what? One of the things I see with, new explosive players in the game, they've got to learn when not to be explosive, Jason. You've taught so many people. You're a great teaching pro in the Chicago area. And how many times do you get really talented, high-level rackets players who they just have to, you have to remind them, look at the size of this court compared to a tennis court.
Yeah.
It doesn't always serve you well to blast the ball.
It was, and I use that comment all the time, Patty, that famous line, right? You should only hit the ball as fast as you're capable or willing to move after it. And again, you when you've got four players out here that all have great racket skills to begin with, there's not much that they're not going to be able to get back. So if you're not able to play at a pace that you're able to control physically, both with your paddle, the ball, and your body, you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage.
Completely agree, and I think what we could be seeing here early is, you want to win fast and lose slow, and as you said, they have all the shots. It's just figuring out what the right selection is and making sure that okay, that was a great short ball to swing at, right? She just missed it, but that's the one that, okay, you're in a position to attack and potentially cause an error. Those are the balls to swing at versus one maybe you're in the green or you're off balance.
Sure, and she had wide open. There was no shift from Cran and Herschel there. The middle was open.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's where Basanova just has to capitalize right there. She doesn't have to hit a winner. She just has to hit her spots. You know, when you teach everybody, it's you teach them to be purposeful with more of their shots. And I find with young players that they really have to learn, you know, when their moments are that they can't be happy just putting a ball in place. They've got to go to a particular spot on the court. And I always feel like when you pick that spot and you have a target, you execute at a much higher level. If you're a little bit in between, indecisive, how low do I go? How high do I go? That's where execution comes into it. And sometimes with nerves, I mean, this is nerves and they're on the live stream. I mean, I'm a little nervous for them watching this. Sometimes you just have those early shots that you just regret, that you just went for a little too much.
Yeah, and I love that point too, Patty. Right? I love telling players if you pick a small target, you're going to miss by a smaller margin. Right? You know, we're all too good to just get it in. I hate hearing that. So yeah, I mean, if she was to have a little bit more precision and say, I'm going to drive that ball at her right hip, you know, or find a specific spot, you know, your percentage of makes versus your percentage of miss goes way up.
Yeah, so Cran Herschel, you know, held serve, up a break here early in the match. I would expect all the players will be settling in a little bit. And, you know, at this point, Cran and Herschel just look rock solid. They're not making a lot of errors. And I think Vera and Anya will work their way into this match quickly. And then it will be a matter of, I think their play at the baseline, I think that's where they have so many options and choices with their explosiveness that they have off their forehands and backhands and picking their spots.
Yeah.
Because I have no doubt they're tremendous volleyers, overheads, movement, all that athleticism. And I think that they're really, you know, they move, I think, pretty well as a team. And I do see some more shifting from them. Right there, you saw like wide open spot. Hasanova had a great look at her forehand, and if you've ever seen her forehand, you don't want to give her that look.
Absolutely.
And you didn't see either player close. They sort of stood there and reacted, and then that ball dipped at her feet. So this is kind of what the reason I gave the nod early on to Basanova and Bukian is I thought that this is what would happen if they could just keep a lot of balls in play. They have so much firepower, but just hit those off-speed balls to certain spots and really test the middle on Cran and Herschel.
I think, too, to your point there, is it's that secondary drive, right? The dreaded double drive that just really causes problem in the shift. So you better volley have with precision, like you said before, have a target to your volley. Otherwise, if it lands short in the middle of the court, that second ball is going to be near impossible to stay in position with. And I think that put them into a couple transition points early in that game, at the back half of that game that helped get them that break there.
Totally agree. And I think, you know, they want to be athletic. They want to be running around, and with the temperature being pretty warm here for paddle's sake, you know, the more rips they get and running around, the better their chances are to get, you know, put themselves in attacking positions. And that right there in that backhand corner, it is very, very sunny to see over there. So if I was on the court here, you know, that's the area you want to be aiming. Have them look up into the sun a few hundred times to see dots. You know, you might get some freebies.
See right here with Bukian, you see some variety in her overheads, guys. And, you know, right on that point, she hit a roller, she moved her grip over, you know, then she hit a push. I love to see the different overhead options early in a match. And I always think that a big difference maker when I watch these matches and I see teams evolve is their ability to have a variety of overheads versus the variety being soft and hard, you know, a flat ball.
I think the point you made too, Patty, about this team maybe being a little younger, a little newer, a lot of weapons, right? You're almost watching their growth process in front of us, right? Each shot is being hit almost as a test. You know, how did that react? What came back? What's the response going to be after that? And you're right, she hit 4 or 5 different types of overheads in that point, and I'm sure she was taking each one to put it in the notebook, and saving it for when she needs it.
You can see right now, Basanova is hitting kind of flatter types of overheads, you guys, where when Buchanan was over there hitting the overheads, she had a little bit more variety in it. And so I'll be curious as the match goes on, which is the more effective, overhead against Cran and Herschel. Because, Jason, when it's all about matchups with everybody. You teach everybody, you give them the fundamentals, you give them the tactics, you give them positioning. And then it's about the matchup. It's about, well, the shots that I like to hit, it's a problem if the other team loves those shots.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, again, when you look at a match in league play, tournament play, if you're evenly matched, right, physically, racket skills, and it's pretty close, it comes down to less about what you want to do and more about what you're unwilling to give to your opponents, right? And so if you find out that someone's really good at defending a certain overhead or hitting a certain drive or retrieving a certain ball, then your whole strategy becomes evolved around that.
Yeah, I feel like this is the setup for these guys. Basanova is much taller than Buchanan, and I like it when that player to the right, really tall and can be on top of the net to cut off the drives, more of a volley person in a sense, versus the person to the left who's going to get, I think, the majority of the overheads.
Totally agree, and that roller is just going to be devastating over the course of an hour and 45-minute, 2-hour match, right? If she's continuing to hit those, really forcing blocks, right? Because if it goes to the nick, that's problematic, and I think over the course of, again, a long period of time, that's going to be problematic to sustain.
Yeah, and I think temperature plays into that too, right? It can be a safer ball a lot of the time with that roller. It's going to stay lower than that, that cutter or that up-down overhead that's going to pop up for someone to potentially drive hot off the screen.
For those just joining us, Brian's going to tell you who's who on the court.
Yes, so on the far side in the blue hat, we have Victoria Cran, and in the white hat, we have Lindsay Herschel. And then on the close side, who just served, we have Anna Bukian, and her partner in the purple shirt, Vera Basanova.
Got it. And by courts now, who's in the deuce court?
In the deuce court, whoa, Patty, you're really
On
throwing
the far side
on the
deuce
far
court.
side deuce court. In the blue hat, we have Victoria Cran, and in the
I'm only asking because I can't tell if her hat's blue, pink, purple,
got it.
anything.
Good. Okay, so blue hat, purple shirt on the far
My
side
seat is
in
a
the
little
deuce.
further away
Then mine.
Got your binoculars, Patty?
Yep, sorry about that. So purple, purple shirt, blue hat on the far side in the deuce side, and then her partner is Lindsay Herschel in the white shirt, white hat.
Good ball. See, in that, Patty, like we were just saying, two very specific locations with that drive. She actually took a little pace off, I think, but found that right hip.
And cleared the net by 2 feet, give or take, which, again, margin is so important in this game. Didn't need to be razor thin on the net, right? Just get it over, force them to make the mistake.
Patty and Brian, I'd love your thought on this. I spend a lot of time working on, your variation of your speed and your spin on those drives. One a little flatter, a little lower, right? Then you throw that change of height and speed and spin. I think that's the hardest ball to volley is because your body has to move to adjust. And if someone doesn't do that, that ball just pops or flies off their paddle.
Excellent insights. We agree with everything you say, basically, Jason.
Wow, this has never happened before.
It's a good serve. Got Basanova off her back foot there.
Rare miss.
Jason, I hope you come back to visit us in a little while, maybe in the second set, because I'd love to ask you some questions.
Sure.
About so many things about running a tournament. Would you come back on when you have a breather?
I'm happy to. as long as we got a great staff here, they're helping get everything going, so it's been great. And again, that for me, that gives me a little bit of free time to jump in here and do some of the fun stuff. So happy to join you anytime.
Excellent. We'll come back in the second set.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Jason Love. See Buki and Basanova, switched courts there in the backcourt, Brian. Not really a problem because they both play both sides, depending on who they're paired up with for an event.
Absolutely.
But you can. How about that rip from Buchanan out of that deuce court?
I was just going to say, they were not expecting that, and that switch is what causes that. I think teams don't do it enough. If there's a lull in the match and you're trying to get a different look, you may as well just switch in the backcourt. Because they're so talented, they're not going to miss those simple balls that, us club players might miss. So really, really great backhand. And again, they were switching again, which I really think is going to be very helpful for them in the backcourt.
Yeah, I think it's great to mix it up, get the overheads, force the net team to mix their overheads. But again, Brian, Buchanan came over and had the wide open middle of the court. There was absolutely no shift from Cran and Herschel on that play. And if you don't cover the middle, you cannot defend explosive shots. You'll get lucky sometimes, but I don't think it's the way to go. I think they really are leaving a lot there in the middle.
Totally
for Buchanan
agree.
And Basanova in this match.
And they don't seem to be necessarily crashing either. So I don't know if they're trying to just stay off and hope that they'll go back and go get it because of the weather. But to your point, you're giving a lot of real estate to two very talented players. So hopefully, they critically think through this, right, and kind of crash middle more to make sure that you're plugging some of those holes up at net.
Yeah, and I don't even use the word crash so much. I just call it a shift. And it's just when the play goes from side to side, typically you'll see clear coverage on the middle.
That was an unbelievable forehand,
If teams
Patty.
don't do it, then if teams... Well, go ahead, Brian. You can.
No, I was just going to say, this is just an unbelievable forehand again, and they're not expecting that. That's coming from the switch, right? They're not necessarily prepared for that immediately yet, so they'll have to adjust for that.
They haven't seen a Basanova forehand probably on court. And that's the thing. She's got a mighty forehand. She can take that ball. And we talked about shifting. If she had shift, she just would have missed that shot by more. So it was actually a phenomenal inside-out forehand that Basanova pulled off there.
And that's where we talk, Patty, a lot about percentages, right? If you're Cran and Herschel, you want to give her that shot, the one that's way cross court and low percentage, yes, versus the middle.
Yep, and I think the other thing is if you're Cran and Herschel, you can't watch that ball go by. I love it when I played someone, and I'm sure you love it, Brian, when someone doesn't make an attempt on the ball. She totally didn't expect it at all, to your point, but they've got to go, stay in there and follow the play a little bit more. Now, Basanova made that other one, and so then she became a self-believer that she's got that shot, where it is a low percentage shot. And that's one of those, when you make it, Brian, you said to yourself, okay, that was lucky. Let me keep using the middle again. Use the middle. I'm just not sure when Basanova gets over into that at court that she's recognizing the gift of the middle of court being wide open. She will.
There's a lot of battle left to be played. I totally agree on that.
Yeah, and that's what this comes down to, the adjustments that, who will make the critical tactical adjustments as a match goes on.
That's a great overhead into that deuce court. Just, again, trying to have the sun be a factor on that side of the court. I think, keeping it low and having them bend down and have to look up is a huge, huge spot here.
Phenomenal dipping return to serve right there, Brian, from Buchanan. force the error, because you do see with Cran Herschel also, they're not the greatest shifting team, and they play pretty casually, I would say. They play more off the net than most teams. And if you can hit those dipping off-speed balls, that's how you can make them pay for that positioning.
Absolutely, and it's something I would like to see, I think, out of both teams too early is make the net man make the first volley, right? That they have such good returns and, that's great locations. Being able to then spot the net man and keep them honest is huge.
So great rip from Basanova down the line, good recovery. Missed a little hands volley there, really soft little shot. Another good look at Buchanan's return to serve. See, right there, Buchanan had the middle wide open, too. She took something off it, and, again, I think she missed the opportunity. I think they have to take advantage of the middle.
Awesome. So at 3-2, I think it's a great time to talk about one of our great sponsors, Volley. Get ready to take your training to the next level with Serve and Volley, the world's first responsive play drill. Volley's new AI-powered feature mimics real game conditions, tracking your court position and returning every serve, just like the real thing. It's the ultimate way to sharpen your platform tennis skills with targeted practice. Try Serve and Volley today on the Volley Racket app and experience the future of training. Get Volley today at getvolley.com.
Brian, so 3-2 here in the first set. Cran Herschel won the first two games. Buchanan Basanova got the next two. Cran Herschel just held. I think this is a pretty important game for Basanova, Buchanan, Brian. I feel like I don't feel that Basanova is necessarily super comfortable out here yet. She seems a little bit, it's understanding, a little bit of nerves. She's playing a little tight. So hopefully she can hit some shots that kind of free her up a little bit. But, great start to the match for Herschel Cran. I think this is exactly the start they needed, because I think when Basanova and Buchanan are confident, they can roll.
I totally agree. And Patty, I would, question for you, if I had to say, how is each team winning points? How would you describe Herschel and Cran have won points? Is it them winning points, or them getting losers out of Basanova and Buchanan?
I would say it's the big E at this point, just errors.
Absolutely. And I think on the other side of the court, they're getting a lot of winners, right? So I think in paddle is a game of minimizing errors. So I think if I'm Basanova, right, and you said she might be a little tight, maybe add a little margin to your shots, right? That's a great spot drive there, but add a little margin, clear the net by a few feet or a few inches more so, and then make sure you're not driving 100%, right? Maybe drive 60% until you feel more comfortable with your drives, and make sure you're not giving up those easy errors.
Sometimes, Brian, I always felt like if I wasn't comfortable on the baseline, that if I got a lot of overheads, that then it kind of helped me loosen myself up a little bit. Because, overheads, you can be kind of free swinging if you maneuver your grips and can add spin. It's kind of a low risk type of shot for the top players. And sometimes I find that's a way to battle through the nerves a little bit.
Absolutely, and I think you see that a lot in matches where, let's say one player is much better than the other one, right? The worser player might be getting a lot of the drives or the overheads, but that helps them relax, right? Because to your point, hitting that many balls in repetition, you're reminding yourself, oh, I've done this before, right? And you come out and you play much better than maybe other people were anticipating you playing. So totally agree. I think as this match progresses, we'll see all these players loosen up slightly.
Curious about Buchanan, Basanova. I've not seen them play a tournament match together. They keep calling the switch from the sides they're returning serve on, Brian, during a point. And I'm not loving that right now, because I kind of feel like when Basanova was in that deuce court, She got an early great look on an overhead and hit a winner. You know, I thought she felt really good. I think they can kind of avoid her forehand as two righties going over to that ad court much easier. And I feel like she needs to get some easy looks and easy, like, you know, a strike or two that ends up as a winning shot to feel more comfortable here.
Absolutely, and I think when you're adding in the switch, again, while there's benefits to it, it's something else mentally you're thinking about. And I think, again, in a matchup like this, you might want to keep it simple, right? Return, stay on the same side, and look for your ball, right? For Bukian, it's that powerful backhand we're seeing, and from Besanova, it's that big forehand. I think everything else, you know, hey, throw up a lob and then shift your feet and look for it.
One of the things you'll notice about the difference with Besanova hitting overheads and Bukian lets the ball drop a lot lower. Besanova, I think, would benefit by letting the ball drop a little bit more on her overheads. A lot of her shots she hits with her height lend themselves to being really higher bouncing balls, which gives the baseline team some more options. For Bukian, her shots are kind of lower bouncing shots, Brian, which, you know, I think is really good to kind of limit the offensive opportunities for the baseline team.
Absolutely right. And I think as Jason was saying earlier, when you know you're hitting a ball from a higher trajectory, right? You're not supposed to be hitting like a tennis swing because the ball is just going to violently bounce off with, especially the temperatures being higher. It lets the team in the backcourt be offensive and hit down on the ball, which in paddle, you know, if you're that team, that's what you're looking for, right? So totally agree, Patty. I think letting it drop maybe to even, you know, shoulder, elbow height would really benefit her.
Huge game right here, obviously. I feel like if Yuki and Besanova get this, that's gonna help their cause. And that's where, you know, that error from Cran right there out of deuce court, she didn't really move her feet very much, Brian. The ball came to her and she just kind of swung at the ball. It didn't look like she had a lot of thought into where she was going to hit that ball. And like I said earlier, I'm a big fan of no matter what shot you're hitting, pick a target.
Yeah, and I think that might have been a sneaky one where, you know, there's only one person at net on the opposite side. She goes, oh, I'm going to just maybe hit the open court, and instead just, you know, didn't get enough height on it to get over the net.
Brandon Herschel played last weekend at the Baltimore event. Great event, second year on the tour, thanks to Sam Byram. And they got to play against Burris and Elliott. They lost to them in the quarters at Baltimore. They made it to the 16s at Nationals last year, Brian, where they lost to Jill Jackson and Marie Maturka. They had a good win over Falls and Jones in the round of 32 at Nats. They played the Philly event last year, made it to the 16s. So they've done a really good job to solidify themselves, Brian, in the top, you know, I would say 12 teams in the country. But now for them, it's the next step. You know, they've got to take the next step where when they match up, like I said, I think their positioning's a little suspect. And you know, if you can't seal off the net, I think it becomes impossible to compete realistically against the top teams, the very top teams in the country. So I think that's where they are. And then, you know, I think the great thing about the live stream is people get to see it, Brian, and they see themselves. And every team who plays and gets to be on the live stream, you know, draws a huge benefit just from watching themselves in action. And you know, so many players say, I had no idea I was doing that. I didn't realize I do that all the time. And, you know, they got to see it, and it's a huge benefit to them. So I would expect that would be, it's going to be, you know, hopefully something that can help both of these teams as they go forward during the season.
Patty, it's funny.
That was a phenomenal lob from that deuce
That was
court.
a phenomenal lob. I feel like you
gave Lindsay Herschel a good look. She just overjuiced it there.
But back to the watching of paddle, I don't know if you were listening to me talk to some people earlier, but A lot of people don't watch themselves play paddle because of, obviously being on the live stream, and you have to be of a certain caliber, but I think I learned just as much from watching me play as almost taking a lesson or going out and drilling, because you might think, oh, I'm turning my shoulders, or my ball toss and my serve's high enough, and until you see yourself not doing that, or doing something incorrectly, it allows you to really be able to correct that. And again, I think to your point with them giving up a lot of the middle, I think that's something that when they watch this match back, they'll see and go, okay, yep, we can plug that gap up a bit, and that will really help them sustain the net without having a lot of the big spins we see some of the top four team players have.
It's a better point for Basanova, Buchanan, a longer point. And this is where, Cran and Herschel, I don't see.
We've all been there, Patty.
We've all been there. This is a fascinating match because it does seem tactical to me in that Buchanan and Basanova, are switching on purpose after their return of serves to get Buchanan in that deuce court and Basanova over in that ad court. The reason for that is I'm scratching my head a little, Brian, because I feel like Basanova, with her wingspan and the power that she can generate on a ball that's hit away from her body, she's got an extraordinary forehand stroke, and I feel like she would get a lot of looks over there, way more good looks than she's getting out of the ad court.
Yeah, and I just think it's forcing something that doesn't need to be forced, right? It'd be one thing if she didn't have this great forehand and you're switching to try and maximize offense on some side of the court, but I don't think it's necessary, Patty. I totally agree with you. And,
Buchanan serving?
Yep, and that fault, Patty, do you think she's thinking about the last shot in the last game? Because, look, that's the other thing with paddle is mental hangovers are a thing where if you make a mistake that you feel like you shouldn't have made, that's a great overhead to the deuce side. You got to have a short memory in this game, because otherwise, that lull can really attack you for games and games and games.
Someone said you got to have that instant delete button. Wow.
Oh,
great
what a great
point.
get.
Oh my God, get the ball!
Yep, and
That's such great athleticism by her to go and get that, and she missed the easier of the two, right, Patty?
yeah, Buchanan made a great little backhand flick. You could see she ran over, had her paddle set low, just flicked the ball back. The next ball, Brian, she had to think lob only. She had her paddle on it. She's got the speed. She's got the athleticism. Put the ball up. Some of these points, as they're ending with these players, you see them missing going for a drive where I'd like to see the shot, with the intention that they were lobbing a ball. You're just not going to miss that many lobs at this level.
Yeah, I was going to say, they've probably missed, I'm going to make this up, but let's say 80% of their drives in the net, right? I don't think they've missed a lob yet. So if you're slightly in trouble, that's back to the margin I was talking about earlier. Throw it up and get back on the point, right? You're a little off balance. There's a lot of running around. You want to get back to neutral.
Second fault there for Buchanan. I think she's just got to settle down, slow down a little bit. Victoria Cran has a nice return to serve, but it's not a huge weapon. And Buchanan just has to let her hit the ball and get in there. She can make every first volley.
Absolutely. If you were Buchanan's partner, would you have gone over and tried to slow it down before that serve? Or would you just let her continue at a pace? Just, trust her and let her hurry up and serve the next ball?
I think this is a tournament that they're playing together for the first time in a tournament. It's tough to do those kinds of things. I think that's the benefit when you've played with a partner for a lot of tournaments. It's easier then to subtly slow them down or make a little suggestion. I think it's a little hard here in the early going when it's your first tournament together of the year. Brian, you made a great comment earlier when you're like, how are these points being, is the outcome because of errors or winners? It's really errors at this point. There's not, I haven't seen one of the players really step up and be the difference maker yet, which, that I think will determine the outcome of a match, who kind of strings some better points together. And it's just a little inconsistent play from all four players at this point, just a little bit. But everybody's settling in. And, Cran and Herschel, because they have played, I think they've got to believe that they're the favored team here. And Basanova and Bukian, their mindset is they came out here and they assume they're going to win the match. Now they got to take care of business. They've got to go back to the fundamentals, as you said, and don't make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Absolutely, and you said it earlier, Cran and Herschel have, quote unquote, put in the work, right? They are, really the only women's team, I think, in Boston of this high level caliber, and they've been playing together for years and years and years, and now you're seeing kind of the fruits of that labor, and this is the match they want to win, right? They want to prove, hey, we're not a top 16 team, we're a top 8 team here.
And right there, great, drive through the middle of the court. Again, Brian, Bukian missed not attempting a lob. That ball had to be a lob. She had to open up her paddle face. She had to manipulate her grip. From her grip, she still had a little semi-Western look there. And that is a great great grip for a drive. But it's a very difficult grip to lob well when you're in a lot of trouble.
Oh, that was a very cheeky attempt there on the little cutter.
Love it.
Her brain was saying ESPN top 10 there.
That's right. That's Victoria Cran serving, and that's Anna Bukian hitting a return. Little body language difference here. The, Cran and Herschel, they look the exact same. They walked on the court, their warm-up to every single point they've played. They look so chill, very calm. You see nothing. If they make a bad error, you don't see anything. I think Basanova and Bukian really need to keep it together here mentally and just stay positive. Keep working on it. Can't beat themselves up at this point in the match.
And if I was coaching them, I'd say, look, keep swinging for your swings, but add height to the ball, right? I think Bukian's probably missed, if she's missed 8 backhands, 7 of them have been in the net. Make Cran and Herschel miss volleys, right? Don't cause the error yourself. Force the error a little bit.
Yeah, and you were alluding to lobbing. I would also move around my lobs a bit as the baseline team here and really test some spots on Cran and Herschel. I see kind of a lot of balls just lob to lob the ball versus lobbing to a spot that could lead to a little bit of a, less confident shot from the net team. See, that's the look I want Basanova. I mean, that's what I think she can do. That's why I like the speed of Bukian coming out of that ad court and let Basanova really get her looks when she is lucky enough to be the recipient of an overhead from Cran or Herschel, and she'll get her shots.
Yep, I think they just came out maybe slightly impatient, right? They know they might be the more talented team, right? But it is their first tournament playing together, and you got to just wait for the right shot. And to your point, Patty, that forehand is a missile. So she wants to, when she gets a good swing, she should be swinging at it.
30 all here, first set, Chicago Charities. Round of 16, women's play. Great action all day long. Don't go anywhere. Brian will go back to back to back today. Matches, lots of round of 16 quarterfinal action coming to you from the beautiful Glenview Club in Gulf, Illinois.
Yeah, and it is a beautiful day here, Patty. A ton of people are out watching. You can see some on the stream. A lot of people inside watching. It is a phenomenal day today.
Yeah, you can, Brian, you never, there can be hundreds of people in that hut that you see, and you don't know that they're here, but that place is packed. And, throughout the course of the weekend, it is one of the most electric environments in paddle.
Yep, having lived here for the last handful of years and been lucky enough to play here, it's such an exciting place.
So, Brian, that's first set, as we just heard, to Cran and Herschel, 6-3 over Buki and Bisanova. We'll be right back in a moment, just after these messages, right here on the APTA YouTube channel, presented by CSM Media.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.
Welcome back to the APTA Tour. We're here at the Chicago Charities in Gulf, Illinois, at the beautiful Glenview Club. I'm Patty Hogan with Brian Fegg, bringing you round of 16 action between Herschel and Cran up against Bisanova Bukian, and you just saw first set, Brian Fegg won by Herschel and Cran 6-3. We kind of talked it through at length, what was clear to us. Any additional thoughts, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, the main one is that Herschel and Cran kind of just going about their business, right? I think we talked about their paddle, quote unquote, pros, right? This is not their first rodeo. They've been doing this for many years now, and they're just not making many mistakes. And I think that's what this second set, that'll be the big game changer, is can Bisanova and Bukian just limit the mistakes? And if they're able to do that and wait for their shot, I think this second set could easily go to them.
I'll be curious if they make what tactical adjustments they make, because Herschel and Cran, like I said, maybe they don't shift as much as some other teams. Maybe they play more off the net than other teams, but they're playing an outstanding, boring match here, Brian, in a way, because they've negated the firepower basically from Bisanova and Bukian, and I think that Bukian, Bisanova, just a little pressing, and so they're going to have to just let the game come to them a little bit more. And I think what happens is when they play, and you get out there, and you made a comment earlier about, well, maybe Bukian and Bisanova have better racket skills, or whatever. Maybe they were higher level tennis players. Really it comes down to how well they compete. And so, they need to compete better in these points. I feel like when there's been some times where it's a little tougher here in this first set, I almost feel like they're not grinding to the very end of the point. And I feel like when you're dead on the baseline, you're grinding to the end, you're extending the point by throwing up that lob. And I just don't see that mindset in them at this point, Brian.
Completely agree, Patty.
That's why I like you, Brian.
Completely agreeing with everything you're saying, exactly. You taught me growing up, so, my brain is the same. I appreciate that.
So in the Charities, in this section of the draw, the winner of this match will come out potentially could be a meeting of with number 4 seeded team here, possibly of Hal Ballard Jackson. We'll see how the draw fills out there. On the bottom half of the draw, I mean, it's intriguing. There are some great matchups. We have our two-time defending national champs versus Elliott out here. We got Lopez and Page, who are making a name for themselves quickly with that, reaching the finals at Baltimore. Alexandra and Liz Cruz, 3-time national champ. Liz Cruz is back in action out here. There you have an intriguing quarterfinal up against Lauren Barrett and Chelsea Middle there going on. We've got Svetkovic and Schroeder up against Hanish Labori. All the great names are here in Chicago, Brian.
You got to love tournaments, Patty, where all the greats show up, and we have so many national champions playing, national finalists, tournament winners. It's super exciting to be here at the Glenview Golf Club.
So I think there was a foot fault on Basanova. You know, they started off her first serve, they were broken. Little struggle to hold serve here.
And that miss right there, do you think that was caused by the blitz? Do you think she felt the blitz coming and tried to force something that, you know, otherwise she didn't want to hit Patty?
I think it absolutely played a part. And she saw that pressure, and I don't even know, you know, if the ball was in or out. We'll never know. But I would have let the ball bounce regardless. Once you recognize that pressure and you're that close to the baseline, I think you're well off. You're much better off just letting that ball bounce.
No, wide.
30, 40.
Good little lob there from Lindsay Herschel out of that ad court and just caught Basanova reaching back a little bit. Really good spot lob. It's a good shot in the ad court of Lindsay Herschel.
That's great defense from the deuce side there, Patty.
Long way. Two.
That's great defense from the...
Dean, Herschel, Cran. They lead the second set, 1 game to love. Herschel, Cran won the first set, 6 games to 3.
Hey, Brian, shout out to Olivia Frazier. She's enjoying listening to the action from Cincinnati. Jimmy Hughes, big fan of Cran and Herschel. Cran and Herschel, they've got the fan base in the chat room. Come on, Buchanan and Basanova. If you're a Buchanan Basanova fan, chime in.
We need the New Jersey natives to come support. Clearly, you know, Boston is showing a lot of love to Cran and Herschel here.
Boston has shown up today, big time. So that's Vic Cran serving. And Basanova about to hit the return of serve. See, I just think from the baseline, Buchanan and Basanova would be well served to go into like a slowdown, exactly what we're seeing. I don't want the switch necessarily, but a lot of lobbing, Brian, almost lull them a little bit. Cran and Herschel tend to play a little bit off the net naturally, and I think, you know, then if they can kind of lull them in a sense and spot their lobs a little better, give them some off-balance overheads to hit, they might create some openings for themselves.
Yeah, I said it earlier, Patty. You win fast or you lose slow, right? And they're losing right now. So this is where you really want to slow it down, throw up some lobs, and I really like a ball even in the middle, right? If they hit slightly too hard of an overhead in the middle, you don't need to change to a big Western grip and hit it, right? Keep a continental grip like your lobbing grip. Throw it in there. To your point, they're way off the net. I think that'll really catch them off guard. And again, your margin is still high enough where you're not giving the point away.
40.
Little bit of a gift here in this game. Basanova, Bukian, I all of a sudden, don't you feel like that error just gave them a big boost in a weird way, Brian?
Absolutely. I was going to say, you know, this game is really important for them, and to get some cheap errors out of Herschel and Cran who have not been making them, I think it would be a huge lift for them to go, oh, okay, you know, we're going to get some easier errors from them also. That overhead is a perfect example, right? I think maybe Herschel and, you know, Cran and Herschel just went off the gas slightly and had 2 or 3 just, you know, mental lapses, and let's see if they can kind of get back into it here.
Hey, Brian, shout out to the one and only Maine resident who watches more live streaming than any other Maine resident, I think, the one and only Dave Chelson. When did you first meet David Chelson?
Wow, that's a great question, Patty. I'm not sure, actually. That's a really good question. I'll have to go back in the archives and try and figure that out.
Well, you're 18 now, right, Brian?
Yeah, exactly. I'm 11 and a half years old. Yeah, but I'm 30, so I'd have to go back. That'd be a long time ago, for sure.
Yeah, I think you probably met him in the juniors. He was such a force, was a phenomenal force throughout his career, regardless of what paddle company he was a part of. He just did the right thing for paddle at every step of the way, and especially for junior paddle, Brian.
And that is the big thing. I think, you know, this game is so great and fun, and junior paddle, getting kids out to play it and experience it when, okay, hey, basketball is not your sport, or indoor tennis, right? That was for me. I didn't want to go indoors and play tennis. I think getting juniors out here to play is critical to, you know, the future of the game, but also just, you know, having our kind of kids be able to do something that they really would love to do. And again, you already told me earlier, Patty, about, you know, me growing up and playing juniors, and, you know, I love this game, and I'm, you know, want to make sure that all the juniors can kind of play that in the future, and the game can continue to grow.
Brian, how much of an influence for you becoming a big-time paddle player and fan were your parents?
Massive, massive. My dad got me on my first men's team at 13 or 14, which was interesting. Having to try to, you know, mature quickly and figure out, okay, I'm playing with guys who, you know, if I hit a bad overhead and you know, they get hit with the ball, may not necessarily be that nice because I hit a bad overhead, right? So that was a great pickup there on that let cord. But yeah, my parents have been a huge impact. Again, getting on teams. My mom taught paddle for a while, so getting, you know, to watch them play, but also getting court exposure with adults and better players has always been a huge reason why I think I've developed into a decent player.
And I do recall seeing your parents at a few paddle parties over the years. Talk about the camaraderie and the friendships, the lifelong friendships that they've made in the sport.
Paddle, I think, breeds some of the best people that I know. I've played paddle in, you know, 3 different states now, in New Jersey, in Ohio, and in Cincinnati, and here in Chicago. And regardless of where I go, I meet, you know, super fun, super interesting, kind people. Even on the East Coast, even New Jersey, you get some kind people. But really just, it's a phenomenal sport, and the camaraderie of it is, okay, if I go and lose 7-6 in the third to 2 people, I'm really bummed. But after the match, we're going to talk and have a really good time afterwards. So it's a different element than tennis. I think if you grew up playing tennis, you know, that's a little more of a pressure cooker environment. Paddle itself is a little more relaxed. All these players are pretty friendly with one another after the match, before the match, during the match, which is something that, you know, I've grown to really appreciate in you know, all my years playing.
All right, so Basanova, Bukian. It was so weird, Brian, how you could just feel that, like that, the momentum shifting for them. And all of a sudden, it seemed like they just loosened up, a huge amount, both of them, or like a huge sigh of relief in a way.
Absolutely. I think they both feel, hey, we can play a lot better, and we're very much in the match. And they actually have a lead in the second set, right? And I don't think they're doing anything special, which is what we talked about. They're slowing down, they're lobbing more, lobbing better, making sure the balls they're swinging at have higher margin, right? Just really, really fantastic adjustments they've made to get Crane and Herschel a little more uncomfortable.
See, that's another reason why I love this setup with the reach of Basanova, where she can pick off some of those dipping balls that would go cross court and be a tough ball for Buchanan to pick up, playing off the net more. So I really like this net positioning for them. Crane and Herschel, that was a great lob from Herschel right up the line. Let him takes over the net. Just seems like, we talked about the overheads earlier, Brian, and I just don't know that Crane and Herschel have the overheads that kind of dictate or can break down, besides that roller right there that we did see Vic Cran hit. I love her roller overhead. But I feel like they hit a lot of flat kind of overheads, and, it's just a matter of time for the short ball, and here we have Basanova just able to, take advantage of that short ball here.
Absolutely, and with Vera's last swing there, Patty, that margin was high, right? Her swing was 2 feet over the net, and then she followed it in. It's not always about that first look you get, but it might be the second or third. And she just used her athleticism and length there to get up there and finish the point.
Brian, what was the most popular candy that you got on Halloween yesterday?
Oh boy. So I love candy more than maybe anybody. Probably not more than anybody, but I love candy. I'm going to go with Snickers. I'm going to say a Snickers bar, followed closely by Twix and Reese's. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm with you. Although Reese's might be number one. Shout out to the number one fan from the state of Connecticut. Ron Cummins is enjoying the action and is enjoying listening to you, Brian.
Wow, I am honored. That is a legend of a man, so I really appreciate the shout out.
Okay, so 3-1. My pick's looking better, Brian, all of a sudden.
It's looking a lot better, Patty, and I was going to ask you, if you're Crane and Herschel, what do you do here to kind of change the tide? This game is all about runs, and they're on the worser end of one. How do you adjust or change things to get back, right in ship?
Well, I think a lot of why their ship was righted at the beginning were basically the play, the errors from Basanova and Buchanan. And they've cleaned them up here, and they're just playing longer points. And I just think they're keeping it really simple. Now that's going to put pressure on Crane and Herschel to go a little bit away from their super solid fundamental game of just hitting shots and not missing to going, to figuring out how they can apply a little bit more pressure, spot their lobs, maybe I would make Basanova hit a lot of overheads, even though she's far taller than Buchanan. She does hit that ball at a higher contact point and a little less deception on the shot. Maybe that's something they can do. But I think it's going to be an interesting thing because, like I said, at the net, I just don't see that they have the overheads that can kind of open up the court for themselves and break Basanova and Buchanan down. I think that's why I kind of still feel like this match is in Buchanan and Basanova's hands, to tell you the truth. These Jersey roots.
Yeah, they go deep, and it's possible that after I made the niceness of New Jersey player comments, I've received about 19 text messages telling me that I need to be a little kinder to my New Jersey brethren, so I apologize. Oh
being
my
kind. Are you
goodness.
kidding me?
What a point was that? Patty, that was unbelievable playing back and forth around the net. That is an
Yeah,
unbelievable
outstanding shot.
play. Unbelievable. And of course, you know, on all these great shots, the guys in the booth have the replays, you know, decked up, ready to go.
Whoopsie. Lindsay Herschel was thrilled that she got the easy error right there. And to your point, you know, errors tend to happen in succession, you know, and you have to have that instant delete button. And right here, there's a huge opportunity for Basanova keep her team with the forward momentum. And Herschel is just putting the ball in play. I'd like to see her apply a little bit more pressure from her return to serve, Brian. You can kind of see they zeroed in on her in that ad corner there. I think that's their play. Just pound the ball over there, keep themselves in the ideal net coverage position. And you can see, you know, the threat of Vic Cran's return to serves definitely in Basanova's head here.
And that's where this game is really somewhat of a mental nightmare where, you know, unlike in tennis, right, you can just go up there and hit a first serve. You're not really thinking about almost the return as much because you have time to react. In this game, you're thinking, oh, I need to serve. I need to get to net. I need to hit a first volley. I need to do this and this and this. And I think you're seeing some of the effects there on that first serve.
Good points. You could see they were trying to break down Vic Cran over there in that deuce court, but with the weather being fairly mild still, you know, a little harder to open up the court on her.
Yeah, I think they could play some balls down the middle, Patty, to potentially try and, you know, get her more to the middle. I like this play of staying back for them. As you said, you know, Cran and Herschel, their overheads haven't really been bothering them in the backcourt. So if you're losing points at net and you're not confident in getting a serve and hitting the first volley, stay back because you're not going to, you know, lose the point on the first two shots.
That's a great point, Brian. So many club level players think, we're giving up the point if we're going back. You know, and it's like, no, you're staying in the point if you're staying back. You're not giving up an easy winner for the other team. Again, I want to see a return, a little bit of pressure from Herschel here, I'd love to see her make Basanova come up with the first volley there. I think when you lob it off the start, you know, sometimes if you don't hit a good enough lob, it just leads to the net team being able to break you down in that corner. Here we go again. You know, Basanova was staying back there. And I almost would have pulled Bukian back, Brian, just to make sure Basanova just would feel comfortable just dumping that serve into the deuce court.
Absolutely, right? You're not trying to stay at net. Your partner doesn't need to be there. I would just absolutely stay back and just get in the right position, especially if they're trying to switch in the backcourt, right? You can kind of position yourself very easily in that manner to just fully set up for a long battle in the backcourt.
Really good hands, soft hands, great drop winner for Bukian.
Yeah, and in this weather, Patty, that's really hard to do because the ball kind of flies off your paddle more than it does, you know, in November, December. I guess it is November, in December and January. You know, the drop shots are really hard to control. That's a great redirect drive there.
And Brian, that's what I'm talking about. That's Basanova's strength. That's her, you know, that's her strongest shot, not even close to anything else in her game. And that's why I want her over in that deuce side, just getting those looks where she can feel so comfortable getting the rips on the ball that she is so capable of doing. You know, and she makes them at a high percentage.
Absolutely. I
And
don't know if she's
yeah.
missed one in the second set, right? I think in the first, we saw her missing some uncharacteristic ones, but in the second set, that shot's been so solid for her. And that was almost a replay of the last point, right? Is just force them to be very solid there.
Yeah, Vic Cran got caught, in between in that court, and Buchanan made her pay with that ball at her feet. She just couldn't come up with it.
Casanova, Buchanan. They lead 4-1, second set.
Patty, now's a great time to talk about one of our sponsors,
First set, 6 games.
Corient. Corient is the official wealth sponsor of the APTA 2024-2025 season. Corient is a fee-only wealth manager who puts their clients at the center of everything they do. Learn more at corient.com.
Yeah, so, Brian, we saw the moment this match changed. And, like we said, I went out on a limb. No. I did say I was pulling for Jersey Strong here only because I thought that they had more, tools in their tool chest. They've got a few more weapons at the ready, and they're now starting to capitalize consistently here. And big turnaround after losing that first set 6-3. They're up 4-1. Second set, Victoria Cran serving.
And I'm curious to see what energy Cran and Herschel bring to this game. I think that last game, losing it, a little deflating when there's some double faults. You're getting some free points, and you couldn't convert on a lot of the break points chances you had. Of course, 4-1 is the trickiest and fakest lead in tennis and paddle. Like I said earlier, Cran and Herschel are pros, so I think they're going to just be fine and step up and play a good game here. But I'm always curious, after games like that, will their energy sustain, or will there be a little bit more of a dip and a lull? And there's that roller, Patty, you were talking about earlier, really heavy into that deuce side.
If I'm Cran and Herschel, right now I would go back to one of the most fundamental things about baseline, about playing it from the baseline. They are the serving team, but they're on the baseline. They've got to start lobbing better, really being far more intentional. They've got to go for some height and some depth on their lobs, particularly some height, because the overheads of Buchanan and Besanova can take over this match.
And I think at the beginning...
You know what I mean, Brian? Sometimes when
absolutely.
it's going south, you've got to go back to your most fundamental shots and thoughts of execution, and I think good lobbing is the basis of all your baseline play.
Yeah, and when you give a team a little more confidence, right? They're up 4-1 in their brain. I know it's not going here necessarily, but we can afford to go for that shot, because if we miss it, losing a point here and there is not as critical. And I think that's what you're seeing. They're loosening up, they're going for their shots, and they're really converting here at a high clip.
It's interesting, Besanova's not really looking to hit her forehand on the return of serves, Brian. You can see she's kind of set up with a more neutral grip, looking to block lob the ball. I want to see her look for the return, because I think there's some serves here that she could pounce on and apply a lot of earlier pressure in the point for her team.
So, Patty, yes, she could. I'm going to disagree with you here, though, only because they're up 4-1 and have a break point. It's not they're not losing anything, right? And I think, while the return is arguably the best look you're going to get, I think she's just confident she's going to get a better look, right?
Yep, that's a great point, Brian. I might not agree with you, but anyway, it's a great point, Brian.
Don't worry, we'll talk a lot more about things you'll disagree with me on. So
No, and it's good to disagree. I'm just saying, like, I feel as a dynamic player, what the skills that she brings to the table is the threat of that topspin forehand. And I want her to even feign the look that she's going to crush it a little bit more because I think that can impact the server.
and that I will agree with.
Sweet.
The feign of going for it and looking to be offensive. Great overhead there. Got a little bit of the nick.
Shout out to half of the great team of Delmonico and Gebbia. KD's enjoying the action, listening to you, Brian. I won't tell you who she agrees with on that last point, but we know if anybody's got an opinion, it's Carrie Delmonico.
Oh, absolutely, and I will not take that personally. Don't worry. KD is, a legend, and shout out to her husband, Mike Stulak, who is also a legend, who I had the pleasure of playing against and losing to about 3 weeks ago now, actually.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer, exactly.
So we're at 4-2 second set. Brian, quick question. Did your dad ever lob the return to serve? Drive the return to serve?
I guess, did he or does he? And the answer is the same. The answer is no.
That was Ron Cummins from Connecticut asking about that question.
The answer is no, unless you hit a really good serve. But anything that's remotely, and that's just some miscommunication from not having played together that much, Patty. They can't let that one bother them. They're still winning this set, right? You got to just stick with it. And
that was right. And Brian, that was a phenomenal lob, and that's the benefit when you're in that deuce court. The up the line is a great shot, but don't forget about just hitting that lob to the middle cross court because it does cost indecision with two righties. And that's what I said, Brian. The way they need to get back into this is really targeted lobbing, just more thoughtful shot making and a focus on, improved lobs, and then the game can come back to them. And there was never a lob that dropped with your dad on the court. I don't think he shied away from telling everybody what to do at all times on the court.
that's putting it.
He was boisterous, to say the least.
Yeah. That's.
He left nothing to chance. That's what, made him a great player.
Hey, there's a lot to be said for that, Patty. So if you're Besanova and Buchanan, this is the point. Even if you lose this, right, it's been a longer point, and this is the kind of paddle they need and want to play, right? They gave away some points at the end of last game and early this game, Patty, right? The longer this point goes, I think it serves them not only in this game, but the next game as well. Would you agree with that?
I would. I think that was another lob, a really good lob from Vic Cran was over in that deuce court and caused the confusion again. She hit that really confusing spot cross court. And I think what Basana and Buchanan have to do, Brian, is I don't see that. I think a short ball to Vic Cran, she can make them pay with the drive. And she's hit two really good lobs in that game during that game that Buchanan and Basanova couldn't figure out how to cover. So I think that if you move the ball a little bit more to the middle of the court or go over to the ad court and just continue breaking down Herschel in that ad court corner, they're fine. They could cruise in their coverage at the net. But the more you throw it back and forth, it does cause confusion and create some openings.
And totally agree, and that's something that you see a lot at club levels where, the better players in the ad, we're going to hit it to the worser player in the deuce. And while that is a strategy, you're seeing the negative effects here where righty, it's very, very tricky unless, again, you have played with the person consistently and knows hitting that ball. You know, it makes more challenges maybe than it's worth, right? So I totally agree. You got to play the middle more, play maybe the backhand a bit so that at net you're not in trouble and you're staying stable and sturdy up there and minimizing those miscommunications.
Yeah, and I think most of this match we see Lindsay Herschel kind of in the corner, pinned in there. I haven't seen her really, free swinging, hitting more than 2 topspin forehands, let's call it. So there's not a threat that's, a factor at this point in the match, and that's why throwing it up, up the middle could serve them well here.
Totally. And that was just a really, really great drop shot by Herschel there. I think just getting on the net, again, it's a little warmer, but making sure you're not putting it to chance, throwing an angle on it. Really, really good shot.
Really good pressure from Basanova moving in behind that shot and staying really disciplined with their volleys. Brian just kept the ball straight ahead. Not a big swing, no backswing. So she didn't overjuice the volley and ended up winning the point.
And it's funny you talked about the volleys. I was going to talk about her backhand, right? The previous game, she missed a few of them in the net. That one, her racket face was open more, and she cleared the net by a foot and was able to then, close and convert. So totally agree. What a great point that was.
Right here, I'd isolate a little bit on the player to the right, which is Victoria Cran here. She's in the position to the right of the 2 players at the net, and I would try to work her a little bit with consecutive shots and try to back her up a little bit, open up some room there, maybe get a blitz, just like what Basanova did right there.
That's great.
Great hands.
Partnership coverage and hands, yeah.
Basanova can play screens all day. I don't want her to play the screens all day. I want her to take a swing on that forehand. When she's got the person on a diagonal opposite backing up, that player to the right, I'd love to see her sneak over to her right, a little bit more toward the side screen, Brian, so she can take a shot, and she can always let the ball go through if the overhead generated a ton more pace than she expected.
Yep, switching back and waiting for that forehand. Yep, and she got one. Great volley up at net. But I really like her being more athletic and moving in and forcing the issue a bit here, Patty.
Totally agree.
And there's that length you were talking about. I mean, I thought that ball was safely down the middle, but clearly Basanova, just with her reach and her forehand strength, was able to muscle it over the net and cause an error.
I don't think that felt good on Victoria Cran's knee right there, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. She got backed up. Basanova stuck it at her feet, forced the volley error.
Basanova, Yukin, they lead 5 games to 3, second set.
Brian, I think it's great that you're making your announcing debut, and we look forward to hearing your voice throughout the course of the season when you're not getting the opportunity to jump in and play tournaments. You are playing tomorrow. Who's your partner?
Yeah, I'm playing with Dan Rosenberg, who is a assistant pro over at the Wilmette Park District, Patty. They have so many players and so many courts. He's been doing that for about 2 years now and absolutely loves it. They have so many players and teams, so just growing the sport even more here in Chicago.
What time do you start tomorrow, Brian?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I think my match is at 8:45 tomorrow, I believe. Might be 8:30. 9. I'm hearing 9 o'clock for my own match, so that's good. I probably should look that up, Hattie. But playing at 9 tomorrow, so, ready for a full day, hydrating as best I can, making sure that I get a good night's sleep. I can't be watching paddle all night, can I?
You'll be ready. Good luck tomorrow, Brian.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
And Brian, congrats on your engagement. I understand your fiance's in the draw.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. She is in the draw. She's at, what time is it? It's 2:25, so she's playing in a backdraw match at Winnetka right now. So really excited for her to play in these tournaments and improve. I think it's really hard to play these tournaments and not get better, right? Because you're playing so many matches and seeing so many different types of players. So yeah, she is in the draw. Really appreciate that, Patty. Thank you.
Maybe in the third, if this goes 3, maybe in the third set you can tell us about when she met your parents.
Oh
No, I'm only
boy,
kidding,
oh
Brian.
boy. I don't know if that might be better with a lower audience count, Patty. I'm sure not everyone's very interested in that.
So Basanova Bukian up 5-3 in the second set here. Clearly the momentum has shifted a little bit away from the Boston team to number 1 team from Russia. And you can see they've got some bounce in their step, little fist pump there, Brian. They're feeling it, and it's just going the wrong way for Cran and Herschel. And we'll see if Basanova and Bukian can close out this set and extend it to 3, which is looking highly likely.
And who doesn't want more bonus paddle, Patty? I'm sure all the viewers on the stream and you and I included all want bonus paddle. Third set. Break point here.
And Brian, just what I see a little bit is with Cran Herschel, a thing that they could do is they could add a little knee bend to, because I think they're pretty upright. It looks like when they hit a lot of their volleys, and when you're upright, you don't get the natural depth on your volley, and I think that's just giving Bukian and Basanova some more, repeated good looks, I would say. And so that's another thing, when you go back to the fundamentals, bend your knees, wait, it's all about timing on the volleys to get that natural depth. And I think that would help them here big time as well.
Absolutely. But I would say, and you actually said it earlier, lull them to sleep a bit, right? And I'm going to say that's really credit to our New Jersey girls on the far side of the court here for just playing smarter paddle and potentially, again, wearing Herschel and Cran's brain out a little bit as they were, cruising earlier in the earlier in the second set and late in the first.
Little discussion about, do you play Australian, traditional setup, and I like the traditional setup because you could see Basanova got a great look on her forehand, right at the beginning of that point.
So Patty, if you're a listener and you're a club level player and you're not playing many tournaments, why would she be staying back? Why is that advantageous for them after the serve?
Yep. Okay, Brian. Oops. Okay, so we're back to deuce. Ask me your question again. Sorry.
No, all good. So we have Basanova staying back on her serve here. If you're a club player and you've watched the game and you're playing it, why is staying back on this serve advantageous for her? What is it doing for her and her partner?
I think it helps her put the ball in the box. I think that she had, she's got a handful of faults here, and she was feeling pressure. And if you're not feeling it, that's one of the reasons to stay back. Just put the ball in the box, and then you can't miss a volley, and you can't give Cran the great feeling of, oh, I just had another good return to serve, and I got you to force a volley. So anyway, Brian, that's the second set to Basanova and Bukian. We'll be right back in just a moment after these messages right here on the APTA YouTube channel presented by CSM Media.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.
Welcome back to the APTA Tour. We are live at the Glenview Club in beautiful Gulf, Illinois, bringing you round of 16 action from the women's draw at the Chicago Charities. I'm Patty Hogan along with Brian Fegg, bringing you action between team of Herschel and Cran up against Basanova and Bukian. And it was all Cran Herschel first set, 6-3. Basanova and Bukian turned it around there, won that second set 6-3, and I think a third set is appropriate for this matchup. These two teams are kind of closely talented, similar accomplishments on the court. Cran and Herschel are a much more veteran team, played a ton of tournaments together in the last couple of years. And Basanova, Bukian just sort of steadied their ship there in that second set. Brian, what do you think were the keys for them to turn this around?
Yeah, I'm going to start with, better lobs, right? They just better lobs and did it more frequently. And I think the other is on their drives, margin goes a long way. And what I mean by margin, I mean height over the net. I think we saw on both Basanova and Bukian, their drive margin, they were hitting the top of the tape or the net. They decided to go, okay, I'm going to drive a foot over the net and force Cran and Herschel to make a mistake or force them to make every volley, right? I think you lose the point automatically if you hit it in the net. If the ball is over the net, you have at least, a percentage chance that your opponent's going to miss the volley. So I'd say those were the two key factors I saw in that set turnaround.
So this is Lindsay Herschel to start serving the third and final set. That's Vera Basanova hitting the return from the deuce court, and that's Anna Bukian out of the ad court in all black. I think the firepower that comes from Cran Herschel comes from that deuce court where Vic Cran is doing she does a wonderful job. She's got a beautiful drive, but she, has hit plenty of effective lobs in this match. Where I think Basanova and Bukian doing a good job of going after, attacking Lindsay Herschel a little bit in the ad court. She's not giving them much, but she doesn't seem to be applying that much pressure on them. I don't feel like they feel an offensive threat from her. So, in a way, I would kind of look to see if Basanova, Bukian, at the net, kind of go after that and then look to open up the court a little bit, sneak some shots in on Vic Cran's side of the court. Brian, shout out to Karen Najelnik, who is doing a great job. And she's taking over for Ann Waldron. They're both out there keeping a close eye on you. And they keep a close eye on me from a distance. And they're doing a great job. Karen's been involved with every tournament this year. And there's a lot, Brian, as you see, you got a lot of information fired this, your way as you were entering your broadcasting career, making your debut here today in Chicago. And we'll look forward to hearing from you throughout the course of the season.
Really appreciate that. And yeah, Karen has done a fantastic job. She's actually standing right behind me looking over, the schedule
I knew that.
later.
That's why I said it.
They are so on top of it and doing such a great job. And in terms of the broadcasting, really appreciate you, helping me out on this first one.
Of course. We've got 2 streams going. We don't want you to leave this match, but there is another round of 16s match going on nearby. I believe Guy Moore and Denise Murphy are calling the action there. We're going to welcome Denise Murphy as well onto the broadcast team this season. Denise is a highly regarded pro out in Chicagoland, and we look forward to hearing from her. So Basanova's feeling a lot better, don't you think, Brian?
That would be an understatement, Patty. I think the first set, you did say some nerves were coming into play. She looks very, very okay being on this court right now. And, I think if she continues to this level, I have trouble seeing Crandon Herschel being able to kind of fight through it with just her sheer firepower.
And I for Basanova Buki, and I like that they actually are returning serve to start this set. They've had some rough starts in their serving games to start each of the first 2 sets. So I think that they're much more comfortable with their baseline play right now than they were definitely in that first set. So this is a good starting position for them here.
Yeah, and on the other side of this, and I was gonna say that shot, but where do you think Crandon Herschel can go, and what adjustments should they make at net to make it more uncomfortable for Basanova and Buki in the backcourt?
One of the things is you see that Cran roller overhead, which I love that shot, and that appears to be their biggest weapon from the net. I think, she does let that ball drop, where Herschel, similar to Basanova, you see her reaching up in a little higher contact point, Brian. And, I don't know if they could switch at the net and get Cran, in the left position a little bit more, just to get her some more looks on her rollers. I'm not sure, but I don't think that's a comfort zone for them as a team. It seems like they're more comfortable with her being the player to the right, Brian.
And Patty, they might have gotten away with that overhead there. That is not the spot to go. High to her forehand.
And it's interesting, Brian. I think they were thinking of that. I think they just had a mental lapse right there. I think when it happened, you and I were like, oh, no, I can't believe she gave her, that forehand. They got past it, but then they made an error 2 shots after. And big break there to start this third set for Basanova Bukian. They're in a really good position. So now this is going to be a fun challenge for Crandon Herschel. We'll see what they've got in their tank. Brian, is this their second match or their third match here today?
This would be the third match today.
So it's their third match of the day. I think they had a pretty easy path getting here.
Yes, they've lost 1 game before this match, Patty.
Right. And I think it was interesting. Basanova Bukian had a 7-5, 6-3 win in their second round match over the Chicago team of Johnson and Rose. Kudos to Johnson and Rose playing that looked like that must have been a great match.
Yeah, Patty, the depth of Chicago women paddle is substantial and something that, again, I grew up in New Jersey and, women's paddle's large there too, but, there's 12 day leagues, so series, and you wouldn't believe this. On Monday nights, there are 11 women's teams of leagues of 10 teams each, and let's say 10 or 15 women on each team. So you do the math.
Yeah.
That it has been an
Phenomenal.
explosion.
I'm
of
doing the
paddle.
math. I'm up to like 1,800 or 2,100.
Correct. So in total, there's about 2,300, women Chicago players playing, and that level is just getting, higher and higher. So, so not surprising, a Chicago team pushed seed here in the early rounds.
Yeah, Brian, I used to love going out to the Charities event as a player, and I just was always floored how, I'd meet some local teams in the first couple of rounds, and they all put up a fight, and they were out there, and they were so determined. Versus sometimes you get out there, and if you're a higher seeded team, the other team thinks, I have no chance, and kind of pack it in a way. But I never ever had that feeling when I played the local Chicago teams. They always brought it, and I love that competitive spirit, and that's why I get into league play. When league play and being able to handle competition is the way to better yourself as a paddle player. In Chicago, just the combination of men's and women's leagues, biggest in the country.
Yeah,
Incredible supporters.
For the men, I think there's 37
for so many
leagues.
years. We talked about Alan Graham earlier. He used to run the men's league, did a wonderful job. Alan is a Hall of Famer. And he's now, I guess, I understand that John Noble has taken over for Alan in running the leagues, which is an incredibly daunting undertaking. But if anybody can do it, it's John Noble.
Yeah, John's doing a great job with it, and there's so much logistics going into it, Patty. It's a massive undertaking, and in Chicago you can play for multiple teams as long as they're not in the same series or division. So that adds a ton of other complications. So yeah, John does a great job figuring it all out, and I just show up to play on Tuesday, Thursdays. Outside of that, scheduling, all that jazz, I'm leaving that up to him.
Hey, Brian, do you have an update on the score from the other match that we are APTA streaming on the other channel on YouTube?
Not yet, but I will get one shortly. So the update I have, Patty, is Banks and O'Sullivan won in 3 sets on the court that was right next to me.
Thank you. They beat Bill Meyer and Blinn.
Yep, correct.
Two-time defending national champs, Burris and Erdoya, squeezed past the all-time greatest, amazing team of Prendergast and Zink. Longest running team in our sport, 0-4. Great second set for the team of Prendergast and Zink.
Yeah, and that 16, Patty. How many national champions do they have over there between Macy Elliott?
A lot.
Lynn Burris,
4 women
yeah.
who are national champs. I mean, what a treat. There are so many great players in this draw. I look forward to seeing possibly Liz Cruz return to the courts, 3-time national champ. Our game is blessed with some phenomenal players. Lopez and Page have advanced from their 16 with a win over Damon and Donnelly. They won 3-0.
And Patty, if I'm Lindsay Hirschler, I think I serve and stay back here. I think you talked about it earlier, Vesanova. Her forehand is a missile right now, and you're feeding the beast just serving it. I think they'd serve better just to serve it and stay back, or they're going Australian here. Do not want to lose the point on this return.
Great pressure.
That's a great close, exactly. Really, really good close.
Winner of this match will come out against the team of Hallballer and Jackson. They won their round of 16 match, 1-0. They are looking strong there, and in another matchup that we might possibly be looking at soon, in an upcoming match, is the team of Page and Lopez up against, it looks like Morgan and Sakura, who beat Hirsch and Karash 1-2 in their round of 16 play. And I believe we'll be seeing the Lopez Page Morgan Sikora matchup later on this afternoon.
That'll be a great match with Morgan Sikora being the local team here from Chicago. Very exciting.
Hanish Savory have advanced to quarterfinal action. They beat Sefcovic and Schroeder 1-1. They will await the winner of the Laura Barrett Chelsea Middle match against Georgia Alexandre and Liz Cruz. I think that's going to be a battle.
Every time Liz Cruz is on the court, it becomes a battle, I feel like, Patty. She is, a three-time national champion, I believe, as you mentioned earlier, and she grinds with the best of them. Oh, just some slight miscommunication in the middle there on that volley. And, Patty, I think that goes back to your point of shifting, right? I think if they slightly shift on that drive when you get to the deuce end, it might be a slightly easier ball for either of them.
Yeah, it would. Routine coverage for the person on, the diagonal, the player to the right of the two players versus getting the player straight ahead, sticking her forehand in front of her partner's paddle. That was a great serve. Buchanan was pretty determined to play a two-handed backhand there, Brian. And at some point, she probably just had to throw the ball up. She was a little too close to the middle, I think. Love the play to stand back, take away. Definitely they feel the threat of the Basanova forehand coming into this. And so they just kind of accepted that they'll be the baseline team once again.
Yeah, either they have an AirPod and they're listening to the stream, which I think would be confusing and probably hard, or, they're heavily critically thinking, which is what you'd expect from a team of their caliber, right? As you said, they're the 8th seed here. They've, been on the scene for quite some time. I think this is a game they know is critical, and it's important that they're not giving up points, right? And that's the same thing on that return is not giving away shots on this in this set in this moment.
Again, just in this point, I love the variety of the Buchanan overhead. They always talk about the 7th game and how critical. I believe this is a critical moment in this match. Suppose Buchanan doesn't stand up, when she sees both her opponents staying back on the baseline, Brian. Typically, it's a kind of a nice play to just go up and take your net position and just let Basanova do her thing and follow you.
Yeah, maybe she's doing that only just to not bother her on the return. I don't know, but yeah, Patty, it seems odd just because you can be established up there, right? Versus having to maybe make a volley in transition. You're already standing there. Your partner belts one and lets you be more athletic, laterally across the court if you're trying to cut a volley off or anything like that.
It's Lindsay Herschel hitting the overhead, the player to the left of the two players that we see. On the near side, that's Vic Cran hitting the overhead in the pink top. All black, ad court, far side. Anya Buchanan. Deuce court, far side, Vera Basanova. Here it is, that hard roller.
You know what overhead I would really like to see here, Patty, if they get a short one, is go really hard to the side screen. Really go, hard third panel smash so that the other partner has to be covering and get involved. I don't think I've seen that from any of the players, and I think that would be a different look that they wouldn't be expecting, at least at this point of the match. I know it may be a confidence thing also to try something different you haven't hit in the 3 sets before, but I think that would be an interesting ball to see. Like on that ball there, just to go really hard on that same
Oh,
angle.
I totally agree. And that's where she had to hit shorter on that screen to the point right there, the third panel versus toward the corner.
Yes.
And I think when you get that opportunity, there's a time and a place to knock that ball, hit it hard, flat. And, you know, that's a great point, Brian. Could be a way to open up the court a little bit.
Just a different look, Patty, and I think, you know, they're obviously, all these players are just very talented. You know, that's not a hard shot for them to hit, and I think is one that they're not expecting. And I think in this game, it's you know, 50% about execution and 50% about really knowing what the other person's going to do. If I'm in the backcourt and just know what ball's coming to me, right, I can prepare. You know, I can move my feet. I can think about where I want to hit it. Versus if it's unpredictable, I'm reacting versus being proactive, which is again really critical on a paddle court.
Now we have Cran Herschel on the opposite sides and where they normally are playing.
That was a great exchange up at net.
And, you know, again, Cran Herschel survived the flurry of difficult shots, Brian, and then all of a sudden it was just a little loose error on what would seem like a more, you know, routine kind of ball. So a break point here for on the paddle of Anya Bukian. You know, you can see how Bukian favors her two-handed backhand, Brian, over her forehand. So that's why I think they do pull off a lot of switches on the baseline. But I feel like if she can hit smart shots with her forehand, it doesn't matter how hard she hits them. It's just, you know, continuing to place them in areas that are a little difficult for Cran Herschel to cover.
Yeah, as you know, I relate very much so. I prefer my backhand much more than my forehand, and I think it's not giving a safe zone, right? It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be particularly good, but I mean, that backhand is really good. If you just put a good forehand in play and keep them honest, I think it does the same job. Maybe not the same job, but has an almost equal effectiveness because they're not expecting it.
I kind of feel like it's a must-win game for Cran Herschel here to stop the mighty momentum that Basanova Bukian have.
Yeah,
I just don't think they have the firepower to come back unless they're, you know, Basanova Bukian all of a sudden, you know, stink up the place with a ton of errors.
Yeah, I think with Basanova not having her best stuff on her serve and them still holding, I don't want to, you know, put words into their brain, but, you know, that would be deflating for me knowing, oh, okay, well, we're not getting these games where, you know, we're getting quote unquote freebies. I do think this is a must win game for them.
Really good lob out of that half court from Bukian. And good, you know, those guys just ran back, threw up a lob, get in the point. Perfect. There's that big forehand from Vic Cran. Love that shot. Brian, really tough overhead in that corner here. And Basanova Bukian, #1 team on the tour from Russia, have a pretty comfortable lead up 3-0 in the third set. Brian, how about that volley machine? How much fun is that to practice with?
Patty, that volley machine can do everything and anything. It can do, you know, lobs. It can pretend like it's serving. You can do serve and volleys. It actually mimics your return after you hit it. The volley machine is an absolute must for clubs. And again, all players alike, doesn't matter the level because you can work on every and any shot. The volley machine is truly a revolutionary thing in the platform tennis game.
So as we said, Brian, following the completion of this match, we will just go match after match after match. We've got 2 streams going from Chicago. Mac McClure and his team are doing a phenomenal job as always. These guys are the pros. They're the best in the game. You should see their overheads, Brian.
Unfortunately for everyone, I have seen their overheads, and it scares me sometimes. They can't hear me, but when they listen back, Matt and the team will maybe hear me bashing overheads. But no, these guys are the best, and this is not the first time I've been able to hang out with them in the booth here, and they really do an unbelievable job, not only for these tournaments, but every week. Chicago Paddle is streamed, a random league on a random night, which is really exciting for players to see. Okay, what's the level look like? Slightly more than higher than me, or slightly worse than me.
So, Brian, I'm going to ask you a personal question. Do you mind?
I don't mind, Patty. Fire away.
So, when you asked your fiance to marry you, did
Sure.
you say, not for, like better, worse, all those kinds of things, but did you explain the paddle season to her?
So it's funny, Patty. I didn't, and that might have been a purposeful omission, just so that she gets to say, she said yes, and then I get to go about maybe traveling for tournaments. The issue I'm having now, though, is she loves paddle so much, she wants to play in every tournament, and I might not necessarily want to. So we didn't explicitly talk about it, but yeah, I think it was an assumption at that point.
Hey, that's great. If she's playing and you're not, you can travel. You help the broadcast team.
That's
How fun is...
that's if I get invited back, Patty. I hope you're having a good time. I can't see everyone in the booth behind me. They're probably trying to get me off the, out of the mic right now. But I appreciate that.
Brian, you have a silky smooth delivery, I got to say.
Wow, Patty, that's like the nicest thing anyone has said to me today. So I really do appreciate that. So for this match, Patty, you did say that last game was critical. Down 3-0, but up 30, now 15, or in this game. If they win this, do you think there is a clear path for them to come back and win this third set?
Am I allowed to say a white lie, or should I be totally truthful?
You can say a white lie, Patty.
No, you know what? I'm going to be truthful.
Good.
I don't feel like they're doing enough that breaks down Bukian and Basanova in this match. I just don't feel a threat enough in enough situations, or like putting pressure on Basanova and Bukian. So I actually do not see them coming back.
That is an unbelievable volley from Basanova at the net, the net man. Going right at the net man again. Great thing to do to keep him off guard, but she was so on top of that volley.
Brian, I just heard from people in 3 different states. They say definitely keep you on, and I think just go play paddle in every state. Then they'll all love listening to you.
Wow, I am honored for that. I don't know what state I have to move to next to play paddle. I know there's a big Pittsburgh and Philly contingency, and there's a lot of Boston contingency, Connecticut. So I got to go to all those places and play all those guys.
That's right. Why don't you just move back to New Jersey and make it easy? We need to see you more.
I appreciate that, Patty. We'll see what I can do. We'll see what I can do. It's not a decision just for me anymore.
Yeah, Cran and Herschel need to move around their lobs a little bit. When you do have this setup with Basanova handling more of the overheads as the player to the left, throw that ball back cross court and see if you can't get a little indecision from Buki and Basanova on their coverage.
And you know what overhead would actually be super effective here? And I actually have a terrible one of these, but I wouldn't mind seeing just a really hard FYM, Patty. I think you had Herschel and Cran kind of in a circle a little bit, right? I think that's the overhead again, just giving them a different look And it's
So,
not
Brian,
even.
what we're talking about is really unleashing a very hard hit flat overhead.
Yes,
right at
thank
someone.
you. Thank you
Yep,
for the.
that's what-
Yes, that's the definition.
That's the, well, we'll just call it for what it is and how they have to hit it. They have to generate an awful lot of speed. Got to get their legs into it, really snap and hit the crap out of the ball.
Yeah, and mine is terrible. It's something that I need to work on because a lot of guys do it to me. And look, I don't love to run on a paddle court. You don't see many people fully sprinting on the court, I don't think, right? You see people moving slightly and sprint for maybe 3 steps, but you don't see people having to run the full, length of your side of the court. I think it would be very effective for both teams, actually, just to give
sure.
a different look.
You see some of the top women's teams, and they bring that element, they bring that shot into the game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you need it to open up the court.
And I think it actually, for all these really talented ladies like that roller, she could have it look like that swing and just go at the person. And it actually looks the same, right? But you're obviously generating something very different off of your paddle.
So this is Anya Buchanan serving. It's Victoria Cran hitting the return to serve. Another great return to serve from that deuce court. The woman's got hands.
Wow, that's a great exchange up at net.
And that's the thing, I like the pressure. Herschel moving in, kind of giving them a little bit of a different look. You see some of the top teams do that, where the partner of the returner applies a lot of pressure moving in as you're about to make contact with that ball in the first volley, and that's a daunting move. I love the move from Cran Herschel right there.
Yeah, you're reading my note cards. I'm pre-writing over here. That's exactly what I was going to say. Got to give them a different look, apply some pressure, and their hands are great, right? Hey, go up there, have a hand-to-hand combat almost, right? And she came away victorious there.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I like about Vic Cran when she's over there. Like, she'll take anybody on. She fears no one. Beautiful shot. Great. Good volley. Good point. This is a better point.
And I like that overhead change. Just a little change of pace, right? Go to the side screen. I think really force them to move around, right? That's
Yeah, she
one.
put a little cut on the ball, Brian. I'd love to see Herschel turn more, get her feet around more. I think when your feet are, when she's facing sort of right into the corner without more of a turn, it makes it hard to hit earlier on that side screen. And that's the shot you need to open up the court.
And just even from a height perspective, you turning your body lets you naturally let the ball drop more, which we do know is a major component of the overhead in platform tennis.
Little loose swing from Pasanova there, just missed. I think she changed her mind on her overhead. And you can see Buchanan didn't really put much pace on that serve, Brian, but it was an effective serve because she kept it very deep in the box.
And the word you said that is really most important is in the box. You cannot give freebies away. It is something that every high-level player, coach will lose their mind on, is giving away points after you work hard for one. Giving it back is unacceptable. So, yeah, just bonus points to have a really good one where it doesn't get a return.
I'll tell you, Buchanan dodged a bullet right there. I thought her ball was out. She was trying for like a little finesse shot right up that line into Cran's corner, and I thought Cran actually missed a call there.
Yeah, Patty, it's funny. I have a very good angle from the hut of that line, and looking at it, I did look out to me as well. So that hopefully, we'll see if it comes back and impacts this game here.
Yeah, good defense from Pasanova, off of 2 well-struck balls. And here we go again. And the point repeats. Throw up the lob, see when you get the look, apply the pressure, defend. I would have loved for Herschel to move in on that ball. I thought she had a pretty good lob up the line to Basanova, and Basanova kind of laid off and, hit a nice little floater that would have been prime for a blitz.
But that last ball that Herschel hit is exactly the one that I want, I think, all of them to hit, because it wasn't anything spectacular, Patty. It was just unexpected, right? It was a slow continental forehand off the back screen that cleared the net, so there was a minimal chance of you missing it, and it just kind of caught her off guard a bit. So I like the change-up a little bit in that moment.
See, and I think Buchanan.
Yep, love that move, Patty. Again, give him a different look.
Yep.
And you can tell how Buchanan's moving around the court. She is much more relaxed. This is her element right now, right? Be athletic, force the issue. You can really tell they've just absolutely fully taken over this match and changed the dynamic.
Good shot of Basanova, early prep on those screens. She has her paddle down low, open up toward the sky, and just fully intention on just throwing up a lob.
I believe my junior platform tennis coach, Patty Hogan, said you need to have it be like a frying pan almost, right? Have it be wide open so that you can get as much height on it, and then you can, gauge your distance based off of, obviously, the angle you're at and all those other things. Totally agree, though.
And Brian, just overall, I'm a big fan of really early paddle preparation. And I remember teaching a clinic recently, and someone said, well, if you show where you want to hit the ball so early, doesn't that help the other team? I said, no. It helps you, and you will miss far fewer shots with that earlier paddle preparation.
In a game where it's not like tennis, where, okay, I need to avoid, X person's forehand because they can hit a winner. Yes, you can hit a winner in this game, but if I know the person, if they hit a good overhead and I just need to lob, I don't care if they know that I'm lobbing or not, right? What are they going to do on the next ball? They're not going to be able to beat me with an overhead if I hit a good enough ball, right? So you want to give yourself maximum time. And that's a great close there to win this fourth game.
So that mighty momentum has swung all the way to Basanova Buchanan in this match. Great first set for Cran and Herschel, and really, really solid play by Basanova Buchanan, getting themselves into that match. Pretty, they steadied their ship in the second set here, and now you're seeing some of what they're capable. Some of the flashy stuff, but you got to take care of all the fundamentals first.
That's a great inside-out forehand there from Lindsay Herschel.
And I would just say Buchanan missed and didn't have her paddle face open, didn't have that frying pan look, Brian.
No.
She can't end a point missing a drive off a really difficult screen. You gotta think lob only.
And I guess for that club player, Patty, you're saying think lob only on that ball, but what percentage of the best players you think are lobbing versus driving? Let's just say out of 10 shots, how many should be lobs versus drives?
Well, I just think, it depends on the overheads that are hit my way. If I'm on the baseline and people are hitting effective side back screens and really backing me up, I'm well behind the baseline. I'm vulnerable to a drop shot if I don't lob that ball. Where it's good to be more aggressive is when you can catch up to that backside screen and you're closing the distance to the net. I love that as an offensive opportunity. If you're Jose Salazar, you can be on your back foot, your back shoulder against the back screen, and he can pull the trigger and hit an offensive shot. So it's definitely about knowing your limits, I would say. And if you're thinking drive, you got to be thinking You know, can I make this 80% of the time? Otherwise, don't even bother.
Yep, and that's, I think, the percentage is, and that's, you know, again, people on this stream, keep using the word margin, you're tired of hearing it, but that's the margin, is 80%. If I can confidently hit it 80% and do some sort of damage, it's worth it. Anything less than that, you're giving stuff away in a game that is very, very hard, as you can see, to end point. And, like, that was a pretty good drop shot, but it's warm out, really hard to control it, and then, you know, great get and lob causes that error.
40, 30.
Yeah, really good lob, and I love the lob. It was just a floater, soft lob, hit into the middle of the court, caused a lot of confusion. And again, I think if I was Cran Herschel right there in that moment, I would let that ball bounce. There was no good place for either player to hit the ball. Just let it bounce. Throw up a lob, start again.
Herschel Cran. Casanova, Kid, lead 4 games to 1, third set.
Hey, Brian, Corian, what a great supporter of the APTA this year.
Absolutely. Corian is excited to partner with the APTA because whether advisors to our members or as members themselves, they are already part of the APTA community. Learn more at www.corient.com, the official wealth sponsor of the APTA.
So, Brian, maybe someone in the hut there could ask around, get an update on that intriguing match going on between Alexandre and Cruz and Barrett and Middle. I would love an update from that if maybe someone near you can find out.
You know, there's about 85 people I see outside this little booth. You know, maybe just give me 30 seconds. I can go and scream at some people, but I'll try to do it civilly first, Patty, and we'll see
It's
what we
usually
get from
when I
there.
pass a note to someone in the room.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do here, Patty. First time
I
on the
just
stream,
passed a
so.
note in my room and no answer came back yet.
Well, hopefully, you know, I can get an answer for you here shortly.
Okay. It's just too bad we're in 2 different rooms, but you know, it is what it is. The son of a little shaky match serving wise, Brian, for sure.
Absolutely, but it hasn't really affected them. As I was saying, Patty, I think those are the games that if Crane and Herschel were able to even get 50% of break conversions, you know, this set is 2-all, 3-all.
Yep.
All right, so Patty,
Yeah, you know, and
I
that-
do have an update actually, and not from somebody in the booth, which is it's actually from someone in New Jersey. Rob Scanoni texted me, giving me an update here. Alexander and Cruz won 2 and 4 in that matchup.
Wow. Thanks to Rob. Barron and Middle, you know, phenomenal players from Chicagoland. Laura Barron was a finalist in Nationals. Chelsea Middle was a 2-time finalist in Nationals, so they're the real deal. Haven't played as a team, but I look forward to seeing both of them, you know, back in action. And, you know, great win there for Alexander and Cruz to advance to the quarters where they'll come up against the phenomenal team of Hanish and Zabori.
You know, Patty, if we're commentating them, we might have to also match outfits like famously, you know, Hanish and Zabori do. You know, next time on the stream, we'll have to coordinate that.
Exactly. Look for a text message.
Deal. And you can hear the frustration from Victoria Cran here. They had game point, a break point opportunity to go 4-2, letting it, I wouldn't say slip necessarily, but just missing some opportunities that they could get back in this game and set.
So 5-1 lead. I might have had a correct prediction, Brian. I
Patty,
wish
it's
I was
possible.
in the 80 percentile on my predictions. Not so the case, and that's the wonderful thing about the sport of platform tennis. Anything can change on a dime in these matches.
Well, in baseball, 30% for hitters is Hall of Fame numbers, Patty. So you're a Hall of Famer in my book on this prediction front.
Brian, how about those Yankees? What a crushing inning the other night.
Patty, I don't know if you're trying to get me to leave the booth early or not, but that might do it. That was soul crushing, and you hear talk about fundamentals in any sport, and at any level they can fall apart, right? It's so important, and you hear little leaguers alike going, hey, do this, do this, do this, and clearly MLB players still make those mistakes, right? Same thing on the paddle court, right? Missed volleys, missed serves, all critical things that a lot of people would say are fundamental, but clearly, are not.
3 match points. So, Brian Fegg, great job joining the announcing booth. You were phenomenal. I'm not kidding. Silky smooth delivery. Great insights, Brian. Totally an articulate analysis. I appreciate that. Everybody from the APTA appreciates that. This is a wrap for this match, but tune in because we will be right back with more upcoming matches from Chicago. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Patty.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are.